Welcome to the Voices of a Black Man. My name is EK James, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with none other than Mr. David Hunter Jr. The Voices of Black Men is a platform for Black men to feel safe, to tell their story through their lens. You know, in society, so often Black men are put into stereotypical boxes, boxes that say that they're silent, which equals absent, or angry, which equals aggressive. The Voices of Black Men is a place to dispel those myths that all Black men do not belong in stereotypical boxes, but that they are simply human beings, men who happen to be Black. So today we have Mr. David Hunter Jr. telling his story with us. How are you doing today, David?
All right, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Are you ready for this?
I believe I am ready. I woke up ready. I feel good.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I'm just going to jump right in.
All
So
right.
tell us about where you're from. How'd you grow up?
Okay. Well, my name is David Hunter Jr., obviously, and I was born in Washington, D.C. I lived in Maryland for a little bit, but mostly I grew up in Northern Virginia. So never living more than 20, 25 minutes outside of D.C. all my life. It was a pretty good childhood. Grew up with my mom and my father. They've known each other for a long time. They got married when they were young. They're both from Philadelphia. So sometimes people get confused about where I'm from because I always talk about DC and like the go-go music and just how we grew up in Northern Virginia. But then when I'm going for holidays, I'm always going to Philly, or I cheer for a lot of Philly teams in Philadelphia. So people are like, yo, I thought you were from Philly, or I thought you were from. So that's a little confusion, but I grew up pretty well. I have one brother, younger brother, and me and him are pretty tight, and he actually lives in Philly right now.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, what was the young David into?
The young David, man, I gotta go back. The young David was into his hair, even though I don't have any right now. um, I love sports from a young age. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was. I think obviously my father, liked sports, but I love sports and I love watching like cartoons, obviously little kid, but everything. I was really into sports and music. So I played the drums from a very young age, and then I cheered for all the teams. So like obviously we just had a situation where John Thompson, he was the head coach of the Georgetown basketball team. I love watching Georgetown games growing up. I was a big Michigan fan, like the Fab Five, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And then my
yeah.
dad went to University of Maryland, so college basketball was really big in our household. So that was me. If there was a game on, I was in front of the TV. Triple headers, NBC, I watched it all.
Sounds good. Sounds like
Yeah,
fun.
it was a lot
Um,
of fun. Yeah.
so let me ask you this: you lived in suburban, grew up in suburbia,
hmm
urban, where?
So it's funny. I kind of pinpoint. I just say Northern Virginia. We moved around a lot. So
Uh-huh.
like, I grew up in the suburbs, but kind of had a city background. Being born in DC, we went to church in DC at first, but then living in Chilham, Maryland, Hyattsville, PG County. You know what I mean? You got to be
Yeah.
from the area if you know about PG. And then Northern Virginia, I lived everywhere. I went to school in Fairfax, Virginia. I went to school in Manassas, which is out there in the suburbs.
Uh-huh.
And then where I settled down, so where people I kind of associate where I'm from now is Woodbridge. I went to high school in Woodbridge, and that's
Yeah.
where we kind of lived the longest period of time. So I was all over, Alexandria, the Highway, Tyson's Corner. I'm a Northern Virginia kid, I would say.
So you know all the spots.
All the spots. I mean, yeah, people. If you're not from DC, people from DC don't leave DC. If they
Yeah.
do, they go to Maryland, but they definitely don't go to Virginia. And people from Maryland think Virginia is like 800 miles away, even though it's right across. Some of them work in Virginia, and they be like, "I don't go to Virginia." So it's kind of a very, very interesting dynamic.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask this question because I know some of our viewers are probably wondering or thinking this. What caused the moving around? Was it jobs? What was happening?
Yeah, it's jobs, you know what I mean? Situations like even though I grew up there, my parents still weren't really from there. So it's kind of like they were just going where they felt needed at the time. And then obviously sometimes, they're doing well now, but money, job situation. I know my father had lost his job one time, so we had to move somewhere. So that was pretty much it. When we were in Maryland at the
Yeah.
time, this is way back, the metro didn't go to Virginia. And so
Um,
my dad had a job in Virginia. And so he was literally driving. And that at that time, if you know about driving around the Beltway, Maryland, DC, Virginia, he was like, I can't do this anymore. So that's why we
Yeah.
moved to Virginia at first. And then one job took him a certain part, another job
Yeah.
took him there, and the traffic out there is crazy. So
The traffic is
yeah,
bananas. It's enough to make people go crazy. Oh my gosh, that
yeah,
traffic is bananas.
yeah.
You
It's
can,
wild.
and it's a matter of timing because 10 minutes
Mhm.
difference, not 30 minutes or an hour, but like 10, 15 minutes difference make
Yeah. Oh
you could
man.
be sitting still or you could be just shooting through.
When you racing, and the thing about, I live in Los Angeles now, but like the thing about in DC, it's a lot of government. And my father worked for the government. So like everybody gets off at the same time. It's like the same schedule. So you got the highway or the freeway open, and then all at 4:45, between 4:45 and 5 o'clock, people are racing to get in the HOV or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is about timing.
Oh wow, that's craziness. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look, I'm gonna take you still back. When you
Hmm.
go back, what's some of your best memories of growing up?
Man, some of my best memories of growing up, I think of watching the games with my dad and my brother. Just like the family time. I think sometimes like my dad would take us. He always, even though we weren't in the city, he's a city boy. So that's why like I have that kind of background. So we would go into DC. We would go to the airport, watch the planes land. There's a park over by Reagan National, Gravely Park. I forget. I've been going, but like watching the airplanes land and take off right outside the city in Arlington. So it's like things like that, getting out the house. Excuse me. Birthday parties. All my friends. My mom is a chef and she bakes. So she was
Oh,
like bake nice specialty cakes, have all the friends over. And then growing up, my godparents were in Maryland, so going to their house, excuse me, just hanging out. Like we had fun. We love to laugh, and then always too. Like me and my brother, we didn't grow up with our cousins.
mm,
All of our family is in Philadelphia, so all my cousins were in Philly and like South Jersey. But all those trips where we got to go up to Philadelphia and hang out with our cousins and see our grandparents, it's like I don't know where your family is all located in one situation, but we literally have maybe 10 to 15 houses of cousins in Philly, and we just house hop
wow.
all over. And so that was always fun getting to go up there for like a week, and then it was really a joy. So those memories are always stay with it.
Sounds good. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of laughs, a lot of laughs.
Uh-huh. It's nothing like family.
No, nothing like it. You, especially during this time right now, we're all experiencing COVID. I mean, you
Yeah.
need your family more than ever right now.
100%. 100%. So as you look growing up, who were the main influences in your life?
Main influence. That's a great question. I would say, obviously, you watch your parents. I was very fortunate to have my parents to watch and see how their relationship was. And my parents were young compared to a lot of people. Like my dad was 21, my mom was 24, they got married. And so having kind of parents that you don't realize they're doing a lot of things with you that some other parents maybe can't do or don't do at that time. You don't realize that. But they were very much a big influence in my life and just wanting to make sure that they were happy with my behavior, even though, we did stuff all the time. My parents, I would say too, because of moving around a lot, I just like didn't really have time to like have a big like I guess mentor or something like that. So I like my go-to when moving was comedy and like being fun. So I watched a lot of like, comedians and saw how they broke the tension, like even on TV when I was little, like not trying to fit in, but trying to make the space as comfortable as possible and not awkward when I did move to a new situation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm a military kid, so I
Okay.
understand having to keep changing, and it's like, okay, everybody here knows everybody, and I'm the
Right.
outsider. So what can I do to make
Right.
myself less of an outsider and stick out as an outsider?
Right.
Very much so. So do you
Yeah.
find yourself because of that having the skill of being able to kind of communicate with a lot of different people?
Yeah, I would say that's been a gift and kind of, I don't know, even crazy how it just worked out where I'm working in that career field now where I meet so many different people, but I have an ability to kind of like break the ice very
Yeah.
fast and not be like over the top, but just kind of get to know you. And I feel like it's also given me a lot of wisdom and discernment in terms of like picking up on people's energy of who I should be connecting to and who I shouldn't. So very watchful. I would also say too, is like not throwing my brother business out there, but it's two different situations. We moved around a lot. So I value staying still. I value being in one place for a long time. A lot of people talk about the house that they grew up in. That's not
Right.
necessarily my story. Even my parents, we can still go back to their same house on their same block in Philly. For me, it's like, well, I lived in DC, but then I was in Maryland and I was in Virginia, but I was in different parts. So it's like, I don't really have that home. And my brother, he's like a nomad. He'll just go everywhere. So it's like, very interesting, but it does help me to break the ice very quickly.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, and this is going to sound like it's left, but I found it kind of true in my life. And I'm just wondering, since we're talking about this, meeting people quickly, you know, being able to kind of build relationships really quickly. How about keeping relationships?
Yeah, I feel like I have kept relationships pretty well, but sometimes, keeping and holding on are two different things. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Absolutely.
And so I've had to mature, especially being in LA. Like I had a lot of friends from the DC area or from college who are still on the East Coast. And I felt like I lost touch when I moved to LA because we didn't keep in touch as much. But I had to realize, like, first of all, I'm on a different coast. I'm operating at a different time zone. I have a life that's going on. They have lives that are going on. And so being willing to let go has helped me. And I've gotten used to that now. But yeah, I think I've held on to pretty strong relationships. I love keeping in touch, and just sometimes it's just a text message. Don't have to be a long call. It's like, yo, how you doing? I'm thinking about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Technology definitely helps nowadays
Yeah, for sure.
with keeping in touch. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So so we know elementary, middle school, and high school, you kind of were in Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC area. You graduated from what area?
I graduated high school in Woodbridge. I went to two high schools. I went to Potomac High School, and then there was a new high school called Forest Park. So I graduated from Forest Park High School in Woodbridge, Virginia. So good memories, good time.
Good memory. So if we were to ask the teachers, what do they remember and what would they say about Mr. David Hunter? What would they say?
Oh man, first of all, so I don't have any hair right now, but your boy had an afro, and I was in a rebellious stage. My mom didn't want me to get braids, so I was like, well, I'm gonna just grow my hair out anyway. So I grew it out so they would not forget the hair. They also know, like, I've always kind of had this like joking spirit, like just keep the energy light. So I remember my teacher left, and we had a sub, and he came back. And his first comment was like, how you doing? How was everything? And I was like, man, I don't care what anybody says about you. I think you're cool. And, outside, you know what I mean? Like I made a lot of jokes probably when it wasn't time to joke.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
hey, graduated. Where we go after graduation?
Graduation. So I wanted to go to the University of Maryland. That's where my father went. And, I just loved the basketball team, but I ended up, my grades weren't that great. I think moving around. And then I would say this to people sometimes, I'm not knocking where I was, but even in the suburbs, the neighborhood that we did live in wasn't necessarily the best. And so the people around me, when I look at what they were doing, sometimes, you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm doing this. But you know what I mean? Like you have to ask somebody, like some of my friends, nothing not wrong with it, but they weren't trying to go to college. And so I'm just living with them, just rocking. And they're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm about to work. And I'm like, oh, you didn't want to go? So you can't live your life by other people's standards. And so I ended up going to Hampton University, and it was like a miracle because it was one of the few colleges that did accept me. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. So I was so ecstatic when I got that announcement, and I found out really late. I found out May 9th, 2003, not my prom night.
Really?
Yeah, my prom night. My father handed me, said this came in the mail and there's an acceptance letter. So I was ecstatic. I was like, I'm going to college.
So you had like a very fun prom night because you were like on top of the world at that point.
Oh man, I was so happy. I had a all white tux on. You couldn't tell me nothing. Your boy was fly.
How big was the fro? How big was the fro?
The fro, it was pretty large. But you know, I won't say it was the most even because you boy was sleeping on the side, so that thing was kind of, I don't know. I could blame it that I say I was doing a kid and play, but it wasn't on purpose.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when you look at college, what do you take away from your years at college?
Mm. Best time of my life. Best time of my life. You know, obviously being born in DC and growing up, my mother ended up going to Howard. Um, Everybody's like, why you ain't go to Howard? You know, it was never in my mind to go there. And it was also like it was close to home. And I always looked at college on TV as going somewhere farther away. You know, even though Maryland is right there too. It was like, oh, these Howard, I get to stay at home. No. So when I went to Hampton, I saw the college. It was on the waterfront. It's still in Virginia, but from where I grew up, it's like 2.5 hours away. So that's not, I've never been down there. So it was like the best experience. It was the friends I met, the experiences. Like, if college ain't for everybody,
Mhm.
but what I do say is the relationships that you get, the friendships that you make, and the memories that you have, they can't be replaced. And I really think that has helped me so much in my life. And I love Hampton so much. The real HU.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
Oh, you're gonna start a war.
I know I'm gonna
Um,
start some.
you're gonna start something for real. Yeah, we're gonna get a whole lot of comments.
Yeah.
um, and I'm gonna just forward them on to you. That's all.
Oh man, that's all right. We got nothing but Hampton hugs for everybody. Hampton
That's
hugs for
it.
everybody.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. No, Hampton was pretty cool.
Hmm.
So I was right across the water in North Carolina, Elizabeth City State. So we hung out a
Okay.
lot at Hampton. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very familiar with
Gotcha.
Hampton. So let me ask you this: when you look back and you think about Hampton, what is the number one thing that you learned that you took away with you in life?
Number one thing from Hampton, I think, well, growing up, I always loved movies. Like you said, one of the things I did, memories were watching games with my dad, but also going to the movies. I would go to the movies by myself. So when I went to Hampton, I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. And I hadn't even thought about being an actor. I'd always done stuff, but I got down there and said, I'm gonna be an actor. And so working in the school, doing the plays, doing shows, getting the word out, I think it taught me more so about being an individual, you know, being out on your own for the first time, you know, noticing different energies, like everybody's cool and like in a way where you're not used to. You know what I mean? Like, like if you've been to DC, people from DC have a certain way they dress and they talk, and I don't know that. I go to Hampton and somebody's like, "Yo, you must be from DC," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's the way you dress or clothes. So noticing the differences between regions,
Yeah.
seeing all different types of Black people, you know, people with money, people not with money, people from the West Coast who I had never encountered before. It was truly an experience for me that you can't replace, you know. And then it was like a safe space, you know. Like, I think in the world today, there's so much that we have on social media, the news. Like, you can't turn it off without seeing something. And being down there, that all that wasn't accessible at that time, and so you're just kind of in this space and this bubble of like safety, of love, of, you know, there's disagreements, but it's like you see
Yeah.
people like you, and it's just love 24/7. You know, freshman year, we did not want to not be on campus. You know what I mean? Like, it was senior year, you're like, all right, let me go to this class and get off. But like freshman year, sophomore year, you're like, man, I'm staying up here all day, every day.
And Hampton University is what we consider a HBCU, or historically Black college and university, which
Hmm.
means majority, it's a majority Black college university. So that meant that you hit on something there, and that was that it was different Black people from all over. It wasn't,
Hmm.
every Black person was not the same.
Right. No, it's such a big fabrication out here that Black people are all the same. You know, as an actor, I see it more so. You know, my brother is fair skinned, light skinned, and both, he's not even an actor, but we could go into an audition and they would think we're two Black people. We are two different people. We have two different tastes. We have two different ways of thinking. And so that was something for me to go down there and see so many different types of people, so many different perspectives, upbringings. It was just really powerful. And I think that imagery is needed because a lot of the things that we see are negative. You know, if I wasn't black and you were watching the news, what you find out about black people from the news is disturbing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that that really helps set a foundation even more so. Like what I also noticed too at Hampton, I went to public school all my life. You know, DC was known as the chocolate city, not so much now, but like even the suburbs were very black, and so my schools were predominantly black. Being at Hampton, a lot of people went to the HBCUs because they never grew up around black people,
These are
or
black
their
people
high
who
schools.
never grew up around black people.
Yeah, that was surprising to me because I was like, I'm from the suburbs technically, but I had more black experience than a lot of my friends, and I was like, really, you're from St. Louis? You're from Boston, or you're from Chicago? And they went to a private school, or they went to some school in the suburbs and it's all white. And my schools were mostly black. Again, being with my family from Philly, mostly black. You know what I mean? So it was definitely, even that was a learning curve for me.
What was the biggest culture shock for you at Hampton?
Oh, culture shock. I think finding out, like, the first thing was finding out that I talk different. A lot of the slang or jargon that you use as a young person, you don't really realize it until people call you out on it. And then once you hear it, at least for me, I couldn't unhear it. So there was a lot of words that I didn't realize I was saying. And then I just kept picking up on it. So that was a big culture shock. I think too, just certain rules. Hampton, at first we had a curfew. And so I grew up, my parents, Christian home, all that, but I never had a curfew. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what do you mean I can't go out? Like what, there were certain things that you just it takes an adjustment to get used to.
Yeah, definitely. HBCUs are very much like parents, right? With curfew, and they're checking on you, and they're
Oh,
making
man.
sure, and did you miss class, and all these things
Mhm. Mhm.
um, that we get from our parents, and we're thinking you go off to college, this ain't supposed to be. I left my parents at home.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I heard a lot of complaints from people. They made fun of us, especially my Howard people. They're like, "Oh, y'all the fake HU. Oh, y'all got a curfew. Y'all on punishment." But I think that helped set a discipline for a lot of people. I think Hampton set the curfew, and it wasn't even long. It was a month. But if you're going to college, you feel like, oh, I'm a while out. But literally, you feel like you just want to go and explore. And it's like, we don't want you to waste your money. We don't want you to waste your time. And I think too, like there was so much time. I went to a ton of parties. I'm not gonna lie. I went to a ton of parties. I kept a flyer from almost every party I went to. But I think the experience they want you to get is to truly understand it goes like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like freshman year, next thing I know, I was a sophomore, and then senior year, you're hanging on to every minute of every day of every time. Like we spend so much time reminiscing, you know, and that is why I think they want you to kind of slow down. You're such in a rush, but they want you to slow down and breathe a bit.
That's a good point. I have to ask, when's the first time that you realized that you weren't just a young man, but a Black young man? And what did that mean to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, because I'll paint it like this. I've been pulled over. I was pulled over driving before I went to college. You know what I mean? We had and again, our neighborhood, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like the inner city, but like we had a police housing in our neighborhood, so there was some activity.
Yeah.
And the cops would just come around in the neighborhood and be like, y'all, just kind of say stuff and like pick on you. You don't really realize it. You don't think like, oh, it's because I'm Black. You know what I mean? Even I remember driving one time and I was driving home and a cop pulled me over and he's like, oh, your tail light's out. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry. And he's like, yeah, no worries, get that fixed. And I got home and I was about to go in the house. I said, oh, my tail light. So I turned the car back on and then looked at the lights and nothing was wrong. And I just chalked it up. I was like, that's interesting, and wanting to sleep. But I would say I was very aware from my parents. They made it clear. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't force race on us, but, they showed me a movie when I was young. It's called Huckleberry Finn. I'll never forget it. And it's the first time I saw a Black person being treated wrong. And at the end, we had a conversation and they were like, what did you think about that? And I was like, I didn't like the way they were treating the Black people because I had never seen that, but they were like talking to them disrespectful and being mean. And I was just like, why are they doing that? And that was my first, true experience seeing that. So
Mhm.
that was kind of a weird feeling. I still remember that feeling.
So did you ever get the talk? Well, okay, and let me clarify this. When I say this, every time I have
Yeah,
to, because there's a lot of the talks,
the talks,
but
a lot of talks.
the
Yeah.
talk of being a Black young man, did you get that talk from your dad or
Yeah,
from your
got to
mom?
talk from my dad, and my mom. They both, I think, shared their own experiences. You know what I mean? Again, they're both from the city. My mom, lived in the projects, as she says. You know what I mean? Philly, and being a young Black man, they just made it clear. They were like, you need to be careful. You need to watch your tone. That was my mom's biggest thing, because I'm a chill person. I don't like confrontation, but I'm also the one that I'm not afraid of. And so, if we need to turn up, we can turn up. And I think my mom, they recognized that at a young age. And so they could see things in me. So there was a lot of talks to me about my attitude, about my tone, and especially about my body language. I remember that a lot. They were like, look, everybody's not going to look at you the way we look at you. And you kind of need to watch how you do that, because that could get you in trouble, or you do this. And then I used to say stuff like, well, I'm going to lift weights and I'm going to get strong and I'm going to get big. And my mom literally was very frank with me. She was like, and they'll shoot you dead.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That nobody's going to fight you fair because you got muscles. They're just going to shoot you. And it was so frank and so honest. But obviously now we're seeing it all the time. But she said that to me at a young age. And I think they were just trying to be very blunt with me, and also get me to work on my attitude, not mute me, not
Yeah.
take away my personality, but just to get me to kind of see things with a wisdom perspective. And then also that God factor in there too. Like, you know, people get on people that are of faith and all that stuff, because they're like, oh, y'all kind of passive, and oh, you. But it's really not. I'm like, I have to trust God with my faith, and that he'll right the wrongs, because I can't be out here fighting everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you can't be out there fighting everybody. No.
No, it's
That.
not worth it.
No. Do you remember round about what age it was, or age range that conversation happened?
It's probably around like 10 or 11. I was young. I know I watched that movie when I was younger than 10. I can't remember, probably like 8, 7 or 8. But around 10 years old, we had that conversation. And then I think too, like, just where we were, you know what I mean? Like, DC, again, can't state the fact, in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a very Black city, and even the suburbs were very Black. And so you're just very knowledgeable of that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why was it important to you to participate? And I thank you so much, but to participate and be a speaker for the Voices of a Black Man?
I think it's a great platform. So first of all, I just want to thank you for having me. I think it's a great platform. I think one of the things I know is Black men, we don't really talk as much. And if we do, we kind of talk on the surface about things, like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? Yeah, oh, she bad. Yeah, she bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, how you doing, man? I'm cool. But like, we don't get really into like being depressed. We don't really get into like our struggles, financially, emotionally, self-esteem. We don't talk about the temptations. It's like, yeah, it's glorified to go chase a bunch of women, but sometimes dudes ain't trying to do it. They just don't know how to stop. You know what I mean? And they can't tell anybody that they trying to stop, because then it's like, oh, you soft. You don't want to, get smashed every woman that you see. And it's like having those real conversations, getting to the real heart of the matter, I think is important. And so, I love this quote, and I forget where it's from, but it says, nobody usually moves until somebody goes first. And so somebody could be waiting on your story, your testimony, your courage to step out there and say something that could really empower them, inspire them, motivate them, encourage them. And I think some of the situations that I've been through in life the last few years, I told God, I was like, look, hey, if you give me an opportunity to keep living. I had a situation where I got very sick, and I almost died. And I was like, if you give me an opportunity to live, you save my life, I promise I'll tell everybody that you did it. And I'll use my life to be a testimony and an encouragement to others. And so I'd never forget that. That situation with Chadwick Boseman really touched home with me, because he died of colon cancer. And so like years ago, 2011, actually, I got very sick. I was 187 pounds, and I lost 47 pounds in the month of August. And I went to 140, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. People didn't know what was wrong with me. It was crazy, because like I kept losing weight and my clothes weren't fitting. And I would ask my brother, I'm like, yo, man, I feel like I'm losing weight. He's like, nah, man, you look good. And then like a week went by and I was like, nah, man, this ain't right. I'm losing weight. He's like, nah, bro, you look fine. Then like the third week, I was like, bro, no, seriously, something's wrong. I'm losing weight. He's like, yeah, man, you don't look good. I was like, man, what what I've been asking you for the last 3 weeks. But long story short, I went there and at first they diagnosed me with what's called celiac disease. So it was like a gluten situation where I couldn't eat anything with gluten in it. And that was, man, shout out to anybody that's going gluten-free on purpose, because Lord have mercy. That was a trial, if anything. But they said it wasn't celiac. And then they came back and another doctor came and he told me that I had not Crohn's disease, but I had ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammation of the colon and your liver and all these things. And so I've had to get checked for colon cancer, regularly the last 4 years, 7 years, getting colonoscopies, doing those things. But I remember that. And so people talk about Chadwick not speaking up, not saying things. Your friends aren't going to, my close ones knew, but nobody's really going to be around like, yeah, David may have colon cancer, or he lost 45 pounds in a month, nobody's going to say that. And it's not something I would go have a procedure, take off a day at work and be back at work the next day and they wouldn't even know.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so going through that, I don't look like what I've been through. You know what I mean? I can go on and on about some of the things that really happened. But when I say that, it's like being a Black man that has experienced that, also experienced the trauma of being a Black man. You know what I mean? Like my words are powerful and I'm going to use them every way possible.
So I know what you mean when you say the trauma of being a Black man, but some of our viewers may not know what you mean. And so can you just explain a little bit of what you mean when you say the trauma of being a Black man through your lens? What is that?
Yeah. So when you're Black, especially a Black man, every decision that you make about leaving your house, you think about. You try not to. Sometimes you just leave and like, I'm just going to go outside, but you have to think about it. If you speak to somebody and they don't speak to you, you have to contemplate, did they not hear me or was it because I'm Black? When I go outside, and especially being a stronger figure Black man or, a darker skinned man, it's more so I got to keep a smile so they know I'm safe, or speak first so they don't get the wrong impression. You know what I mean? Or I put on something that, allows me to belong. Like I wear a lot of sports gear. You know what I mean? LA, you got to be careful what you wear in certain neighborhoods. But, I live by Dodger Stadium. So I may throw on a Dodgers hat. And they're like, oh, he's a Dodgers fan. Something they can connect to that keeps me safe and that takes away from me being Black. Me going to the store, the corner store at nighttime. I'm like, man, hopefully he doesn't think I'm trying to do something when I walk up in there. And let me go regularly enough so that when I do show up, he recognizes my face. All these little things that you have to do. Me putting on a hoodie because it's cool, but maybe I need to put on a fashionable hoodie, or maybe get a hoodie with some stripes on it so that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's fashionable, he's cool. It's not like a thug or why? But it's just things that we do regularly. I feel like Black people, it's also like, it's not a curse. I don't ever say being Black is hard. It's just, we have a blessing of, I can go to Watts, South Central right now and be right in my place, and I can go to Beverly Hills. Other races can't hop back and forth. They can't just be up and watch like that. So we have a benefit of doing that. But it's also like, it's just tough sometimes. It's also tough being a Black man when it's like, you just minding your business and people automatically think you're tougher than you are. That's why they shooting these Black brothers, because it's like we have some superhuman strength because we're Black. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh man, I can't, he was a Black man. You know what I mean? Like they won't test you because you're Black, but then it's also like sometimes they try to test you because you're Black. Gotcha. You feel me? It is a crazy dynamic. It is a psychological problem that other people have and we do not. It is not our issue. It is not our issue to fix our image.
Say that again.
I was just saying it's not our responsibility to fix somebody else's psychological problem about how they view us. I have a degree. I have a master's degree. You know what I mean? Working in television and film. I taught kids at elementary school, but when I go to the store, I'm a Black man. When I got to tell somebody I taught first grade for them to be like, oh my God. They can't just assume the best. It's already like, I ain't gonna say I'm working on not saying the N-word, but sometimes it slips out. That's just me. But that's the image. That's what it's like every day for Black men. And it's created a dynamic where you have these super passive black men who they don't say nothing. It's like, well, man, yeah, I saw him get killed, man. I ain't even paying attention to them. You know what I mean? They don't step up in the household like they should. Women are kind of leading the household. Not to say women can't lead, but it's like the men aren't taking the responsibility where they need to because it's been conditioned. Then you got these hyper aggressive black men who are like, man, you ain't about to test me. I wish you would. And then there's some that's in the middle. But we got 3 different types of black men that we dealing with. You know what I mean? And then there's a time when they talk about, black on black crime, which is not necessarily a thing. You violence happens in the neighborhood when you're around so many people, but there's a situation where they talk about that. But think about it like this: if every race that you encounter disrespects you, the last race, you like, man, you ain't about to disrespect me. You know what I mean? Like, we can get loud with each other and not feel like our lives are threatened. But it also comes from a point of everybody else is looking at us a certain way. We always got to play the double standard. Are they cool or are they not cool? You know what I mean? Even our white friends that are cool with us, they don't know that they think we're cool. But the white friend that doesn't know us doesn't think. Like, you could think I'm cool. I see your friend doesn't even know me and they don't know. But then they're like, oh, I didn't know you knew Kyle. Why didn't you tell me you knew Kyle? Now I know you're cool. Why do I need to be validated?
Right.
So it's that type of foolishness that we have to continue to deal with. We have been in COVID, sitting at home, continue to see people getting killed, not having money, not working. People are fed up, real fed. I'm saying it with a smile because it's just facts. But like a lot of these things, I'm not surprised by, and they are necessary evils that need to occur because stuff has to get exposed. It's time out. It's over.
So when we talk about stuff being exposed, what are we talking about being exposed exactly? Because we know that some things that we see in society have been going on before our time, before our parents' time, before our grandparents' time. I mean, there's a history of certain things. When you look at where society is today, let me ask a better question for you. When you look at where society is today, and you look at all the things that are happening in society, what's your thoughts about it? Good and bad.
Obviously there's bad. We see the deaths, we see the George Floyds, we see the Breonna Taylors. When we hear about them, we also see the fact that there's a lack of accountability, that people just, for whatever reason, they're not going to put justice as they should. And so those are the bad things. What the good out of it, I guess you could say, is that we're seeing it. Because I remember when I was little, I'll never forget this. I was watching like NBC4 in DC, and there was like a news, and it was like a news break. And they were like, coming up after the break, a man was dragged by a pickup truck in Texas. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? And like, it was like a quick 30-second story and it was over. But in my mind, I was like, I associated Texas with dragging somebody on a truck. And I was like, I ain't never going there, because it was like a black man. But we didn't see it. It got covered up. And I'm sure that family was fighting for justice. But now, man, when something happens, immediately it's on the phone. It's exposed. And people, like black people, we know there's people that don't like us as racist for whatever reason. It's not fighting that. That's not the change. The good thing is the people who have been hiding for years. I'm not afraid of somebody that's driving around with a Trump sign on their truck. It's the person that shakes my hand that won't give me a loan. It's the person that's going to give me less when I deserve more, that smiles in my face, that taps me on the back and says, what's up, bro? You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of things that are getting exposed that I think is a good situation with this. And people are getting uncomfortable and they can't hold themselves. They have no discipline. So they just start typing and saying stuff. And it's like, go ahead and expose yourself. Please come free. The more that we remove those people, the closer we'll get to actual, I guess peace, not peace. But I also feel like as much as we're fighting, those people are rooted. Like, some people, and I say white people, but people, they're rooted. They're like, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm not going to apologize. They almost feel like they're being targeted. So it's like, it is a crazy dynamic that we're seeing and experiencing right now.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. All the way around.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Yeah, man.
So I want to thank you for being transparent and sharing your heart on that. I want
Hmm.
to go back to you leaving school and between there and now. We're not going to go every single year to now. We're just
Yeah, yeah,
between there and now. Um, you decided in school that you wanted to be an actor.
yeah,
How
yeah.
did you, what in the world made you say, I'm definitely going to be an actor. I'm going to do this thing.
I love movies, and I think not just that, I love storytelling. I love the way that I feel. You know, people from back home. Again, I love LA, but I'm shouting out home a lot. My two favorite theaters, I would be at, you know, in Woodbridge, I'd be at Potomac Mills, or I'd be at the Hoffman Theater in Alexandria. Those are my two. Those are the ones that I was at all the time. You find me at the Hoffman or Potomac Mills. And I just went to the movies for my birthday. I would ask my mom to make lasagna, make brownies, and I wanted the AMC gift card. You know what I mean? That's all I wanted. And so looking back at that, I think I took a pause at, you know, right before I left to go to college. And I said, what do I want to do? I said, man, I love movies. I want to act. And that's literally what led me to it. I used to tape Comic View. This is for the old heads, but I used to tape Comic View on VHS on Friday nights, and I would rewatch them, and I try to mimic all the comics the way their voices were, or like I was just into that. So I think when I got to Hampton, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And they didn't have a film program at the time, so I studied theater, and that gave me a different perspective because I'd only been watching movies, but then I started reading plays. I started studying the playwrights. I started getting into breaking down, you know, Shakespeare and things that I hadn't done. August Wilson. I learned so much about Black playwrights that I had never known before because I was just entertained by it, but I wasn't studying it. So now I started studying it, and truly I was like, yo, I want to make this a career. And it's never, even up to this point, we'll get to that, but like, I've never once doubted that this was the wrong choice. This is exactly what I was made to do and create and impact people by the stories and the characters I play.
Yeah. So being able to be in theater rather than majoring in film, because
Mm-hmm.
it has its own regiment, right? Than
Mm-hmm.
theater do you think it gives you advantage in ways, or how has it played into your career?
I think theater does give you an advantage. There's a rawness that you can't fake.
Mm-hmm.
There's a realness and authenticity that comes from being on the stage in front of a live audience. That, you know, cameras, you know, you can edit, you can cut, you can turn up the sound, you can make somebody look good, you can do some ADR, or it's the audio digital recording. Like, you can do that after the fact. When it's on stage, it's real right there and then. And so, like, you know, either you have it or you don't. And I love that aspect. And so if you take that intensity, you take that professionalism, that work ethic, and you take that to the film world, it doesn't always translate. Just because you were in theater doesn't mean you're going to be a film actor or a TV star. Just because I hear people say that all the time, like, oh, they went to the theater, there's just better actors. There's some people that never acted in their life that went straight to film, and they are killing it. But I think there is something added to what I need to do for my preparation that has helped me from theater and just an appreciation of the storytelling that they did back then and still do today. Yeah.
So your journey from Hampton University to actor David Hunter Jr., producer, director, tell me
Man.
about that.
After Hampton, I knew I wanted to come to LA. I just knew, I was like, I want to be in LA, I want to be in film, but I didn't necessarily know how to get here. And I had a big sister, my shout out to my Hampton sister, Giovanna Brush, we call her Juice. She was studying in a program out here in LA, and she told me about it. It was like a 2-week to a month program. So I signed in or applied, got in. And so that summer, 2007, I made my first trip to LA. It was hilarious because my mom booked my flight. So I got on the flight and I ended up going to Disney World first. I was like, where am I going? And then I took another flight and I was in Houston. And I was like, who booked this flight? So my first trip, I thought I was getting on a direct flight. She didn't tell me. I got on they were handing out Mickey Mouse ears. I was like, where the heck am I going? You know, but I made it to LA.
Out there, she's gonna get you there, but
Oh
she ain't
man,
giving you a lot of money.
she got me there. She got me there, but I was like, I had no clue. I was like, I'm going to LA. But I got here. The program went well. and I met a lot of people, and I loved it so much, but I had to come right back. And so I'm in the Northern Virginia area, but I'm working in DC, and I'm doing plays, I'm doing theater, I'm doing stuff. But I was like complaining. I was like, I got to get back to LA. And so like I ended up going back to the program again, and I stayed longer. I stayed for a month and a half, but then I didn't move. I came back. And so all I did was complain, but I was working at the DC Improv. I was doing shows at the DC Improv, comedy shows, plays, Lincoln Theater. I was in my hometown making a lot of moves. And I remember complaining, and my mother told me, she was like, look, I know you're complaining and you're here, but you're going to move to LA, and there's God probably going to pick up for you, and you may not be able to come back. And I look back on that, and that's just something that has been true. Like I go home maybe once a year, FaceTime with parents, and that's it. But I would, that's an encouragement to others. It's like, I know people are trying to get to wherever they want to go, but don't skip the steps. DC was necessary for me to come to LA. Like I can neglect all that, but saying I was able to do those things gave me confidence in front of some things. And then when I came to LA, I didn't get, chewed up and spit out. So definitely, enjoy the process. But being in LA, I think the first 5 years I was here, I didn't necessarily know who I was or what I wanted. I was like, I'm gonna be an actor, and that's all I was trying to do. I was acting, but I wasn't really doing. I was, I say this all the time. I was moving around a lot, but I wasn't making a lot of moves. You know what I mean? And just being busy for no reason. And busy is not the goal. Productivity is the goal. And so also I listened to people who didn't have the same goals. Again, same as high school. Listen to people who were trying to do things for their own personal motives. And I was like, I don't align with that, but they've been here longer, so I'm going to do it too. And I ended up getting attached to certain people who I shouldn't have been attached to. And so it's like, your name in LA and Hollywood's small, LA small. And it's a big city, but it's small. So like you're connected to the wrong person. They're like, well, if you're connected to them, you're like them too. Not going to work with you. So, or it could be like, oh, you're connected to them? Great, gonna work with you. So it works. But I think I really had to find my own identity. And it was after I got sick. I was like, Lord was like, I think he was trying to shut me down. He's like, look, I didn't bring you out here to run around. You're wasting time. You've been here 6 years, 7 years. We got to get it together. And so I remember watching House of Cards, and it came out. And again, it had that DC connection. And I was like, yo, I love this. I want to write a show like this. And so I literally sat down and wrote 40 pages about a couple. And it was just, they were acting, but they were trying to build in the business. And I gave it to a friend who was a director. He read it. He was like, I don't think so. And I was like, no. He said, but those first 4 pages were dope. But the rest of it, no. Let's shoot the first 4 pages. And we shot the first 4 pages, and it ended up turning into a web series, which ended up getting picked up and licensed, and it's on a platform, and we're still getting run today on a different network. So that is the journey that got me to it. And then it was like, oh, I'm a creative. I can write my own. I'm depending on other people. I can pave my own way, and I can do something. And everybody's saying that now, but I want to be very clear. Not everybody is capable. I'm not knocking it. Don't just do something just because everybody else doing it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, everybody else is writing, I'm a write. If you're not a writer and you don't feel the urge to write, don't do it. Like, don't just be out here just because, oh, like, oh, Issa Rae did it and they're doing. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean that's your lane. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a writer. I'm an actor first. I'm a writer, and I want to produce and create content for other people. That's it. Directing, I'll let somebody else direct. That's what God blessed them to do. You know what I mean? But that's really was the transition for me. After being sick, God had to slow me down and say, I've given you tools as well. Tap into it, And that's kind of where we are now. We're building off of that.
You talked about earlier about having influences like on TV, like comedy shows and different things like that. Did you ever in your acting career, or as you moved into where you are today, have you found mentors at all, or you just kind of just been you and God?
That's a excellent question, because that's kind of where I am now. Seeking a true mentor. I didn't mention one of the things that happened to me when I moved to LA. I was actually teaching middle school in Northern Virginia, and I felt God saying, you got to go. And so I told them, hey, I'm going to leave. and I got a job out here in LA. I got out here, the job didn't work from a supposed mentor. It didn't work, but I ended up getting a job working at the Kodak Theater at the time, which turned into the Dolby Theater, which is the home of the Oscars. And through that job working there, I got to go to the Oscars every year that I've been in LA. And not only being at the Oscars, I was the voice of God for the actual show. So like inside the theater, so I'm like doing the voice for our staff, doing those things. And it was about timing and movement. So I didn't necessarily have a mentor looking out for me, but I had a close friend, brother who's in the music industry, Mark Harris, my brother. And then being there at the Oscars, I think God was allowing me to see things and take notes from the greats. So seeing all these people that you watch on TV, there's people that are acting full time that don't go to the Oscars. And I've been every year that I've been here, which is a blessing. And so now I think, and then also too, I will say this, I don't think I was ready for the type of mentor that I need now. And I would say that too. Sometimes we're seeking things, we're not ready. I had opportunities that I missed because I didn't know there was an opportunity. There's $100 bill on the ground and you walk over top of it. That doesn't mean it's not $100 bill. You just don't know what it looked like. You know what I'm saying? I'm single right now, but somebody gonna get blessed one day. You know what I mean? It's funny, but it's how you recognize stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I think you got to recognize, and I recognize now who I am, what I'm about, what I need. I used to go to these screenings, and I would go there, and I was like, I know I'm supposed to be here, but I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's who I talk to. So the next time I want to talk to them, but I didn't know what to say. And then the next time I went, I was like, I knew what to say. So I was like, I'm not even wasting time chit-chatting. Hey, bro, here's what I'm working on. Hey, young miss, here's what I'm going. And it's like quick, to the point, intentional. But you got to know who you are to even get that point. LA, they say people are fake in LA. I have a lot of friends born and raised here. I love LA. I don't think it's fake. I think people don't have time to waste with people who don't know what they want. And when you know what you want, in 5 seconds of talking to somebody, you can clearly tell if they know what they're talking about or not. And I'm single. Like, I'm not bringing it up to be funny, but I'm single. I have a lot of free time for me. But you talk about somebody that has a family, kids, married, and you don't know what you talk about. You don't know what you want. Are you coming to me with some foolishness? Yeah, there's no second chances out here. Because what I see is you weren't prepared enough to get, or you weren't professional enough to get prepared to come to me correct the first time. Why should I give you more of my time? And so I really think we got to check ourselves about our true intention and about our professional. This is not a game. This is a business.
Wow. I mean, that's something that we can look at. You're talking about from an individual perspective, but even as we look at society and we look at how we use our time from a society standpoint, which is made of individuals, right? Majority of individuals. I think it speaks to where we are and where we're not as a society as well. What we're intentional about and what we're not intentional about. And where we professional, right? In our intentions, and where we decide from a society standpoint that, we're not going to address that. We're just going to leave it where it is. Yeah. Right or wrong. Right. It's being casual, I think, too. And,
one thing I say, people always ask, like, what's your purpose? I feel like my purpose is to inspire people to their purpose. And by me fulfilling what I'm supposed to do, hopefully it encourages other people. But at the end of the day, I can't make you do something that you don't want to do. I've made mistakes. I lost a ton of money. I've been broke. I'm gonna be real, because people don't talk about it. I had my car repossessed. You know what I mean? Like, there have been some low moments, and there's also been some very high moments, because I said, I can't do that again. Oh, you know what? That was a little too casual over there. Even in my relationships with people, like, everybody's not my friend that I meet. There's some very nice people. They're cool. That you got to stop calling everybody that. Like, truly be intentional. We are blaming other people for decisions that we made. And it's like, no, the mirror, look at it. It's not pretty, but look at that thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when you pick projects that you work on, what is your measuring stick?
Four things. I want to be part of projects that impact, inspire, entertain, and educate. Those are kind of the four things I want to be a part of. So, and then, I always ask why. And I say, if you find your why, you find your way. Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason? What is like, if you really ask that, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you getting outside, getting in your car and say, I want to go to the store. What store? You
Right.
want to go to Rite Aid? You want to CVS? You want to go to Giant? You want to Shoppers? You want to Rouse? Home Depot? Target? There's a lot of stores. Which you corner store? Which one do you want to go to? What do you need? You have to do the work, because sometimes you'll spend moments being a part of a project or starting a project, and then 3 months in or 4 months in, you realize, man, I put a lot of energy into this, but this isn't necessarily what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing the work beforehand, a lot of times we want the glory before we want to do the work. We want to be quick, like, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm working in silence. Look, I'm working in silence. Look, I'm working in silence. Can't you see? I'm silent about how I'm working. Like, I can't hear you over there talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it is. I started a production company called Made for More Entertainment. And it's really based on the fact that I feel like God made me for more than just being an actor. So those are our four principles: impact, inspire, educate, and entertain.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I'm a person that always talks about going to the core of something, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
go to the core, then it takes away all the fluff. And that's exactly what it looks like you've done, with understanding this is what we're doing and this is what we're here for,
Mm-hmm.
personally, and then for the business side of things as well. So that
Yeah.
I think those are good tips and values that others can pick up from and take along with them.
Thank
You know, I have a few more questions for you. I'm so enjoying this conversation. So
Yeah.
enjoying.
Thank
I
you.
want I want to go back just a little bit. And I want to go back to um the conversation about Black men and not and being kind of silent, or the three types of Black men that you talked about. But I want to ask this question. So frustration, anger, disappointment, from a societal standpoint, meaning you talked about every time I walk out my door, I need to be intentional about where I'm going, but also intentional about how I'm presenting myself, to protect myself, and in some forms protecting others,
Yeah.
in some forms of that. What do you do with those emotions? Frustration, anger, disappointment.
Is a good. I'm glad we're touching back on this again, because I don't want people to think like every day I walk outside I'm depressed.
Right. Right.
I'm not. Again, y'all can probably tell I'm pretty happy and enjoying life. But what I say is, it's the awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and people have awareness. Black people have hyper awareness. You know what I mean? We are so aware of our surroundings, in ways that can never be explained. I say, man, I was like, man, if everybody could be Black for one day, wouldn't be no more racism. But then also, I don't even know if they would feel it, because we wouldn't treat them how we get treated, because we know how it feels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we if you see the joy in Black people, with everybody dying, with people getting killed, and we still smile, we still have a good time, we still laughing, we still watching versus battles. You know what I mean? Like, we are living our best lives in the midst of two pandemics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think for me, every day goes out. It starts with my faith. You know, there's something I say all the time. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it, and the world can't take it. And so my faith doesn't start with what I see. It starts with what I know. And what I know is that God's got me covered. He's got my back 100. My faith in him is always in him. It's in him regardless of if my relationships are going well. It's in him regardless of if my money is right. It's in him regardless, because I know that he's got my back. And that true trust and faith allows me to go outside and operate. Do I still have to use wisdom? Yeah, I'm not about to drive to a KKK rally by myself. and go say, you know what, guys, God told me to tell you. I'd be foolish, you know. But what I'm saying is, it's like I don't live in fear. I don't operate in fear. I'm not afraid of anything, you know, especially after being hooked up to machines and could have possibly died. Like what? You can't explain that. You can tell somebody about it, but they got to go through it for themselves. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I live.
So I hear, hey, you should have got me before this happened. Because after this, I'm like, okay, we got this now.
Real talk. You know what I mean? I'm living in a way now where, again, even for me, and I don't mind sharing, like, before I even got to where I'm working now and doing some of the things, like I talked about losing my car, but like I literally had a broken relationship that was a long relationship, you know, on the path towards marriage that ended because of financial things that happened on my end. And so you can beat yourself up about that. That's when my car got taken. I was working 3 jobs. I was going to Starbucks at 3:30 in the morning, working from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m., getting off, going to the Dolby Theater, and then getting off, and then working at another theater from 6 to 10. Smiling through it all 3 jobs for almost 5 months. All 3 jobs didn't know I had another job because I was embarrassed to tell. You know what I mean? I was embarrassed. I'm like, yo, I was on the path to getting married, and now I lost this money, and everybody thinks I'm here, but I'm not. People don't even know I got my car repoed. I got it back, but they don't even know. And so it's like all these things I was kind of hiding. But that time made me see my self-worth isn't in things. You know what I mean? I put my self-worth in my relationship. Well, that was gone. Put my self-worth in my car. Gone. My money. And God was like, I'm gonna take away everything until you truly get it, bruh. You depend on me. And so now I know that. And it's like there's a confidence, there's an air. It's not an arrogance, but there's a confidence that I'm walking in right now where I know exactly who the blank I am. You know what I mean? Like I know who I am. Ain't no doubt. I know what I'm going for. I'm not settling. And I'm really, my dad says this, he said it growing up. He's like, I laugh and I joke, but I don't play. And I'm not playing with this thing. We got one life to live, and I'm here to live it intentionally and to be the best that I can be.
I love that. I absolutely 100% love that. I really do. When you walk into a room, what do you want people to say about you?
Oh man. um, I think, you know, it's funny you asked when walking the room. I've said this about myself just privately. Like I'm a high A. And it's like, what is a high A? And it's like I have honesty, I have integrity, and I'm authentic.
Mm.
You know, me and my boy, we say this all the time. He's one of my Cali brothers, like my brother from another. He says, man, I'm a real one. You know, when you go to the store and you get a bottle, you scan me the first time I work. You don't got to do a price check. You don't got to go to the back and see what else is going on. Ain't nothing wrong with my barcode. So that's how I feel. When people meet me, they get an authenticity that they're not used to seeing. Because you can, like I had the afro, I moved around a lot and all these things, but like you can go to the hood of Philadelphia, you can go to the suburbs of Virginia and Maryland, you know, DC. The people that know me are gonna say that's the same cat. I look different, but that's the same brother. There's no like, oh, Dave's one way here, Dave's one way there. And there's an honesty and an authenticity that I want to bring to every environment that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you walk out of that room, what are they saying? Or what do you want them to say?
Man, there was something different about that brother. He left an impact even for 5 minutes. And the thing is, like, I don't go into a situation talking about I'm going to make an impact when I go in this room. I just walk in and be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have so many people being uh, a self that they think other people would like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we don't even meet the real person. And I don't have time for that. Again, it really does go back. I repeat it all the time, but like when you almost lose your life, you know, I cannot stress that enough. Like this is not a game. I still take some medicine and do some things like that and I'm good. But like I hooked up to machines. I was 26 years old, a young man. Like you cannot explain that. And so when you have that experience, there's no time for being fake. there's no time for being fake. All these messages that my friends, they joke on me. They're like, man, if there's a corner of a table in a room and there's people around, Dave's going to sit on the edge of it and start dropping wisdom, because they always laugh at me. But I feel like if I have an opportunity and I feel led to speak, that's what I do. So when I leave a room, they're going to be like, there's something different about that brother.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What do you say to society, just people as a whole, as they encounter Black men, whether it's walking down the street or walking on the elevator or coming into a building or sitting at a meeting table? What would you like society to know, or what should they feel or think?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I could give some, real deep answer, philosophical, emotional ties. I think just see a human being. We've lost the humanity. It's like, it's a Black, like, I'm telling y'all, Black people are not tripping off of y'all. Mm-hmm. Like, we literally don't think about anybody else in a negative way until we're thought about in a negative way. Then we have to put our guard up. But like, you see us walking down the street, like literally we're minding our business. We're with joy. You know what I mean? Are there occasional apples that aren't great? Of course. Yeah, there's like that in every race. You know what I mean? But I can't explain the pain that I feel when I see a homeless man crossing the street after the lights turn green, because I know, like, I see him, I'm like, man, come on, bro. But it's out of love. But somebody else is like, another Black man in the street. You know what I mean? Like, that's how they looking at him. If they see a white homeless dude, it's like, oh, that dude's tripping. And I see him, I'm like, oh, he's just tripping, he's crazy. But a black homeless man, like, oh, he's crazy. Something wrong with him. What's he gonna do? And it's like there's a stigma that's attached to it. So just see the humanity and think like that. Like, you could know that person. That's somebody's son, that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's father, that's somebody's relative, that's a teacher. Think the positive before you think the negative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So on that note, I always say, I was taught from my mom that you meet everyone at the human level first, and you find commonalities, because it's easy to find differences, right? But you meet them and you find commonalities, and they're very easy to find because we're all human, and we all there's only a few things, we all need food, we all want to love, we all want to be loved. We want to take care of our families, we want our people to be good. I mean, all of those things, it's very easy to come with some commonalities to grow a relationship as opposed to differences. Right. In that vein, I have a few questions for you. We call this a rapid fire, quick off the dome type question. I promise. It sounds more cooler than it probably is.
All right. We're gonna see.
Okay. So you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite food?
Lasagna.
Favorite drink?
Pink lemonade. I was about to say kiwi strawberry Snapple, but pink lemonade.
Oh, you was gonna get fancy on us.
Yeah, hey, that little, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Favorite movie?
Oh, shoot, man. I was gonna say, you got me. Malcolm X, Denzel, that boy, problem.
What was it about Denzel playing Malcolm X?
I couldn't separate him. He was Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. There was power. There was just like, I mean, if you've never seen Malcolm X, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go watch it. If you have seen it, try to watch it soon. Like, his portrayal, his energy, what he brought to that, he left nothing on the table. He gave it all. And it's truly one of the most powerful performances I've ever seen.
Favorite song?
Okay. You're gonna hit me with this. It's oh man, favorite song. I'm tied between two right now.
Okay, what's the two?
It's just because of the beat, and she's my favorite artist, is Erykah Badu. Okay. Bag Lady. Man, that thing right there slaps. That's a classic. She's my favorite artist. I love Erica.
Okay. What's the
Yeah.
other one?
You know, Music Soul Child, Just Friends, Sunny. That thing is classic. That's like a summertime jam with the windows open and the kids is playing outside in the street. And you got the jump rope and they're doing the hopscotch. That's that. Man, that's classic. That's, you know what I mean? And he's from Philly. So, you know, we had to shout it out.
Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Favorite ice cream?
Butter pecan, or pecan for all my, you know, fancy people.
Is there a certain brand or just butter pecan or pecan?
Butter pecan, yeah, butter pecan. You know, you got that Breyers, you know what I'm saying? Breyers, but yeah, I eat pretty much any brand.
Okay.
Butter pecan, yeah, okay. Butter pecan. That's my 12-year-old me saying that.
I hear it. It sounds like it took you back to sitting on the stoop with the bowl.
I'm telling you. Yeah, if anybody ever had a screen door, you know what I'm saying? Got the screen door running it out the house. Come on now. Sitting on the step with that thing. Classic.
So let's see. Favorite vacation spot?
Vacation spot.
Or destination.
You know, I haven't been, but I would love to go to the Caribbean. I'd love to go to like Venice and do like Italy and be out there. But the place I've been is Jamaica. And so I love it, the island. Yeah, with my people, you know. I'm trying to discipline myself. I'm an actor, so I did good. I didn't start talking in the accent, that patois. So So is it, so when you say Caribbean, is it because of the people, the water, the beach? The water, the relaxation. I love the water. That's actually another selling point why I went to Hampton. You know what I mean? I got down here, saw the water. I said, oh, this is me. And there's just something relaxing about that, sitting on the beach, you know, sitting on a chair and just like having a day to do nothing except sit there. So I love that. So if I can go sit up on the beach in the Caribbean somewhere, A1. Is that one of the draws to LA? I know, other than film? Yeah, I mean, I love, obviously people talk about the weather a lot and you get used to it, so you don't even think about it really. But I love the fact like that I don't have to think about the weather. I just go outside and I'm like, oh, whatever. I love throwing on some shorts. Like they get on me hard now. I travel back east and they're like, man, you stick out like a sore thumb. But after 13 years of living here, your clothing just kind of changes to that. Like I'm fitting in the climate. So I don't have a lot of heavy stuff. I'm Chuck Taylor with no socks, you know what I'm saying? Low top. Like I'm out here, California.
I got you.
But I love it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So that was my last question. It wasn't too bad, was it? No, it was good. It was good. All right. But you know, I find a lot of times that people don't ask just simple questions like that because there's simple ways to connect, you know, simple ways to find out something where you have a connection that you never thought that you would have a connection with. Right. Like telling your story. So yeah. I have enjoyed, now we come to the part where every speaker gets a chance before we get out of here to just address a person, a community, a society, the world, whoever they want to. Before I do that, I have one last question for you. I just thought about it that I forgot to ask you. No way. What's your impact on the world? When it's all said and done, what's your impact on the world? Impact on the world. I want to be, I think I've thought about this a lot. I want to be, you know, people watch sports. They always show there's like this big coach, but he was coaching and then all these other people underneath of him became coaches, head coaches. And you're like, oh, I didn't know they were all there. They were all like assistants or did something, but it started with him. And so not for pride, not for arrogance, but I would love to be that cat, that brother who they're like, man, I didn't know he sponsored that on the side or he did that for him. I'd love other people to get opportunities because of the things that we're able to do with our company or me able to support them financially or emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is. And so I'd love for people to just have that legacy of like, man,
he touched a lot of different organizations and communities by his work.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts with one, right? And then the ripple effect from
right.
Mm-hmm.
One person at a time.
One person at a time. That's it. So, okay. So now we've definitely now come to the point where I'm going to put myself on mute so that you can have 100% of the platform and the stage, and whoever you want to address, be it a person, be it a community, be it a society, be it the world, whatever it is that you feel like you've not been able to say and be heard on, or you've said it and you think it's worth saying again, this is your moment. So I'm going on mute now. It's all yours.
All right. Man, first off, I just want to thank Voices of a Black Man for the opportunity to be here and to speak. I would say I'm speaking to a lot of people right now who are in the midst of trying to figure out what they want to do next. You may feel stuck. You may feel like you don't have clarity on what it is. I tell you to take a deep breath and to breathe. And I know it's cliche. People say take it one step at a time, but that's what I'm encouraging you to do right now. A lot of times we're at this certain level and we can't see down the road. So whether or not you have a belief or faith in God, God can see the entire picture, and he's at a higher elevation. So what you can do right now is you can continue to prepare and really, really put yourself in the best position, because literally I'm a witness that when opportunity comes, it can happen just like that. So whatever it is that you want to be, you do the research, study it, become an expert in that field, and look at people, maybe think outside the box, reach out to people who are where you'd like to be and see if they would be willing to take a email or mentor you or give some advice. You have to think differently in this time space. You cannot do what everybody else is doing. If everybody else is doing it, then I would advise maybe to look away and look at something else, because if they were all doing it, they wouldn't be doing the same thing. You know what I mean? I would also encourage you, a lot of people right now, I see people tweeting about their, relationship goals, or me with somebody's son next year and all this stuff. Being single, there's nothing wrong with it. And at this time frame in your life, I think this is the most important time to really get your affairs in order. So really don't look at yourself as being alone. Look at this time of freedom to explore opportunities. And again, I just encourage you, think outside the box. Don't just think the norm. Take a week off, take some time, set a schedule for yourself that can really apply to where you see yourself, not where you are, where you see yourself. If you don't see it before you see it, you'll never see it. That's been a quote that somebody has told me. So I see where I'm going to be with the company. I see where I'm going to be with my family. I see all of those things now. And so my time today is impacting my future later. I'm doing different things. I'm writing, I'm reading a book. I'm whatever applies to you. Really try to do the best to get the most out of each and every day that you can. No time is wasted. I cannot tell you enough. We see people like Chadwick Boseman pass away at a young age. We see Kobe Bryant this year pass away unexpectedly. Nothing is promised. And so do not waste your time. It's okay to be down a little bit. If you need to get therapy, reach out to somebody. If you need a circle, hit up somebody. But take care of your self-help, your self-care, your self-health, your mental, and then really get busy about being a better you. Build the best package that you can be. And when you get intentional about yourself, a lot of those other things that you're worried about will kind of fall off. It doesn't mean that they're not important, but when you get intentional about you, I'm telling you, the doors are going to open, they're going to flood open, and you're going to have so much peace that you will really be thankful for. So that's my encouragement to you. Stay strong, stay encouraged, and really get busy about yourself.
Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mr. David Hunter Jr.
Hey.
You're amazing. And I thank you so much. So, all right now. Okay.
Don't get me started. Pray for me.
But I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for telling your story through your lens. I know that it's going to help so many people throughout society to be able just to see a different view, to hear a different view, to understand some things that maybe they didn't understand before. And the knowledge that you drop for them to be able to live a better life than what they're living now. So I thank you for all of it, for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your time. Thank you so much for being a part of the Voices of a Black Man.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now to our viewers, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to another session of the Voices of Black Men. Let me just say this, Ed, you know, you have listened, and that's the first part of this, is to listen. Now that you've listened, there comes a second part. You've heard David Hunter Jr. tell his story. Now it's up to you. As you listen, maybe something hit you a different way than before. You heard something different that you never heard before, or put a different way. You know, we all have biases, conscious and unconscious bias. My action item to you, or my charge to you, is to really look at all the things that you listen to. What hit you the most? Now, what actions can you take from there? Is it getting more education about something? Is it learning something new? Is it giving people chance before judging them? Whatever it could be, it starts with you, and it starts with you taking the action. We can only tell the stories. It's up to you to take the action, because once you take the action and I take the action and we change ourselves, then we can change our families, our communities, and the world altogether. I'm CK James. I thank you for listening today and tuning in to another session of the Voices of a Black Man. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.